Hello and welcome to Dark Matters with myself, Jonny Standing, and Ant Critchley.
Thanks, Jonny.
All right, Ant. What we're aiming to do is a few podcasts. It's called The Principles of Love, because we think that we should discuss this because it's very, very important. It's in everybody's lives. It's something that affects us all, and it's something that we can use to align ourselves with a higher sense of purpose and even in a practical sense. So if I just like to give you a few ideas of what we'll be doing over the next few weeks, we would be covering some aspects of those principles, which is, loving kindness itself, which would be care and caring for others, benevolence, compassion, empathy, sympathy, generosity, forgiveness, respect, connection and unity, cooperativeness, and concord with others, harmony. In fact, anything that benefits us from those principles, like equanimity and impartiality, actually, would be peace and calm, tranquility and contentment and compromise. These sorts of things, these sorts of lovely values that can come from understanding it and practicing a way of being with one another. Because if there's never been a time for unity, it's now. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be happening at the speed or in the right kind of way that I'd like to see it going, or any of us would do. There seems to be a lot of, views and opinions that are all going astray. So this is not about all the esoteric knowledge that we all like to get into, which we do. And it's not about any conspiracies or anything like that. It simply is about all the principles of love. That's what we'll be covering. And, there's different ways of describing it in different languages. In fact, in some other languages, they use better terms than we do in English. We tend to love our shoes or our hat or a car or, your dog, and we love one another. But that's it. We just tend to use this one word, and it doesn't really describe a full explanation of how that can be present in all of us all of the time, during the different times that we spend with others, including family members, friends, and even those that we may not like or we're not too close to. So, these principles come in to play all the time, whether we know it or not. Now, I personally think that love is a universal law. Why do I say that? I say it because you cannot get rid of hatred with hatred. It doesn't work. And I do believe that the full principle and sovereign of all this universe, that's the principle by which it works. That's the power by which it uses. And that is the force and the energy and the vibration from which it exists and gives life to everything here within the universe. It being within and without. But from our point of view and from our perspective, we are in our own minds sharing an experience. So that's why it's important to have this love in our hearts, not all these bitter feelings like grudges and things like that. I suppose you'll all follow me when we just where we're going with it all. I'll just give you the quick idea from the Greek, some of the different terms that they use for love. In the Greek, they have a word called agape. I'm sure plenty of people watching this will be familiar with it, which is a kind of selfless love, compassion for others, altruism. This selfless love is the highest kind in the Greek language. And then there's storge, which is an appreciation that's shared between family members, rooted in the life experiences that they have together, including anything simple like going on holidays, even traumas. But that storge is the love they have within a family. And philia is a love for friendship, friends like I love Ant, like I love Carly Spell, and my wife, Caroline, all those different things but she's my family, so that would probably be storge, wouldn't it? See what I mean? But philia is a deep friendship, a camaraderie, if you want, that kind of thing, which is the bonds that connect individuals on a soul level, transcending mere acquaintanceship. And then there is pragma. Pragma is It's an enduring love built on mutual respect, understanding, and compromised relationships that stand the test of time. compromise, and I didn't mean compromising relationships. You see what I mean? Anyway, and then there's eros. We all know what that is. That's a sexual love, passion and desire, sexual relationships. And there's another one, ludos, which is a playful love, which is flirtatiousness, light-hearted interactions, that kind of thing. So that being the Greek. Just bear with me now, and we'll head right into this. I'll just cover some others because these, although they're very similar, they have a deeper meaning in it. Like I just take just 3 Sanskrit words. Bhakti is similar to agape, but not quite the same, because it's devotion and reverence for a higher consciousness, probably usually God or a deity of something. A selfless devotion and a surrendering to something else, classed as the path to liberation or enlightenment or something like that. And then there's maitri, which is deep friendships and bonds, which is like philia in Greek, same as that. And then there's kama, not to be mistaken by karma, completely different word, kama. And that means lust and sexual desire. We won't be covering all these things, but the principles of it, and it does come into it, so you just bear with us. But my favourite one is in Pali, which is a particular language to Buddhism itself. And metta, which is MECCA, that is loosely speaking just means love, but in its broad aspects, in its fullest sense, that is, it means loving kindness, benevolence, a deep sense of care and compassion to all beings, regardless of background, race, or belief. That sounds beautiful to me. That's why I wanted to bring that one up. And then there's karuna, which simply means compassion, but in Buddhism, that is the ability to empathize with others and alleviate suffering, alleviate it as well. And then there's mudita. I like this one because we should all sort of bear this one in mind. It's a pretty cool one. It's mudita is sympathetic joy. Sympathetic joy means that there's the feeling of happiness and delight in other people's achievements. When somebody's doing something good and they have some success, and you celebrate their joy as if it was your own. So that's what mudita means. And then there's upekkha, and that is to describe love, and they describe it in Buddhist terms, that is the ability to love without attachment or bias, maintaining a sense of peace and balance in all relationships, to be impartial and have equanimity. And so I've covered all of that. So I think we'll launch into it now. I've waffled my head off long enough. And I thought those were interesting, and you can see where we're going to take it.
Out of interest, did you find a word for self-love? Because I didn't hear anything about self-love. And I don't mean like, what? I love myself, but self-love is really, I would say, is an extremely important aspect, and it's not talked about often enough, because that's talked about as almost being a selfish way, but it's not. And people get confused by loving thyself. And having actual self-love and recognizing who you truly are and things like that, and the fact that you are a divine being, etc., etc. It's strange that there's all those wonderful words, but yet nothing for self, which I thought was quite interesting.
There will be. I just didn't bring that up. I'm glad you said it, though. That's fantastic. Well, this is what it's all about, and what a brilliant thing. We can start with that, actually, then. Let's make that the first part of the conversation, then, Anne, because that was brilliant, self-love.
Well, it's an interesting thing for me, because I mean, you know me, I'm very much about everyone else bar myself. I'm very much a, I'll give, and that's the way I've always been. And when I fell poorly a couple of years ago, I don't know if I told you the story of a friend of mine. Well, he wasn't a friend at the time; he was a stranger. And a guy from Inverness in Scotland, and he used to come to my pub during the crazy period, and or he said he came to the pub once to a talk, and he phoned me out the blue when I was poorly, and he said, you need to remember who you are, but in a very broad Scottish accent. You need to remember who you are. But ultimately, what he was doing, he spent time with me for me to find myself and to find love for myself and realize actually my value in this realm that we're in, and my purpose kind of thing, So we lose track of that because we're so distracted in everything in the world that we lose track of the fact that actually we are very important parts of this game that we're in. And
Absolutely.
And we should that. And I'm not saying love the personality. The personality Anthony Critchley is just a story. That's just a story. But within there's a spark within me that is pure love, and it's finding the essence of who you are.
Yeah, that's pretty much a Gnostic view, believe it or not.
Is that a Gnostic view? Is it?
Right. Yes, it is pretty much. I mean, what a great way to start this podcast off, by starting with yourself. That is really poignant. It's the truth. How could you love anybody if you despise yourself? How can you help anybody if you're filled with bitterness? If you've got problems, if you've got issues, if you're depressed? I'm not saying there's anything wrong now, and I'm not having a go at people who are suffering at all. That's the whole point of love, isn't it? That we're there to help, and we can empathise and sympathise and be compassionate and help them up, and help them along. I mean, a lot of people, they'll go to shrinks, pay a lot of money for that, when really it should have been there from the word go, that guidance. But a lot of it comes, I think, from rejection, heartbreak, and things like that. How people are dealing with it. If they're left to their own devices and they never hear any kind of good advice, then they're going to suffer. I mean, and I did, but not greatly. I mean, I had the most wonderful mother who brought me up to understand what freedom was. And I mean, really, truly did. Yeah. Not only that, she was singing and laughing all the time, all the way through her life. And she pretty much loved everyone, and everyone seems to love her because she had a lot of self-love. And she grew up dancing in the fields, singing to herself. She used to sing to God, as she put it. She fell out with God later on because she didn't like the old one in the Testament, which is fair enough because he's a psychopath.
He certainly is.
Well, he is, yeah. She liked Jesus, but she just couldn't get along with that. She didn't like anything that was cruel. She just couldn't get along with it. Yeah. So when I was 15, I fell in love, and I thought it was fantastic. And it's interesting because the word infatuation, it's not real love, but there's something there that's causing it. And you fall in love at an early age. You may be infatuated with somebody. Well, we grow out of that sort of stuff, don't we? So yeah,
I think we've all been there, haven't we? And I remember it well, where I was infatuated with a girl who was, used to hang around with us, if you like, and go to the same bars and things like that when I was sort of 19, 20. And I became slightly obsessed in a way, but there was never any love. It was obsessed. Yeah. It was
it's obsession as well. It's a similar thing.
Yeah. But it's not real. It's almost like it's just an illusion, and your brain again playing tricks on you, and it's not love. There's no feeling. You've got to
realize everything's a development, though, isn't it? I mean, when I got blown out when I was 15, I cried my eyes out, couldn't get over it. Next girlfriend I got, thought I was going to do the same thing to me. So I'm 16, 17, got jealous. And that really, really hurt me. I lost my mind with it. And my friends used to get a guy to go over to my girlfriend, the next one after it, and try and make a move on us just to wind me up because they were cruel. That was funny, wasn't it, you see, then? But we were kids, and it worked as well. I used to lose my rag, and I was mad with it. But after a while, that pain, I realised that really early on, and I've suffered from it again since once in a while. But it's something you got to uproot completely. Jealousy, it's a really bad one because you are in a paranoid, delusional state. Nothing's really happening, but you think it is. And it's all coming, like everything comes from your mind, everything that you, depending on your state, is originating in your own mind, really. Basically, when I was being younger, I let myself off because I wasn't in balance with the mind and the heart. It was all over the place. That came from suffering. It was only later because even though my mum brought me up with all that, the freedom she let me have, I was off out of the house before I knew it, and I always looked after me folks, went back, did things for them. But I went on my own journeys. And I think self-love is where you begin. If you don't really, you need to sort that out first. And there's plenty of techniques and ways of doing that. And if it takes practice for some people, then you've got to practice it. But most of us know what love is to one degree or another. But we're going to deep dive a lot of different aspects and the principles of it. Hopefully come to some really good, helpful conclusions at the end of these podcasts, not just this one, but all of them. So so self-love.
Yeah, it's
if anybody
it's
out
a difficult one.
Yeah.
I found it difficult, Johnny, because I found it as is it egotistical? It's almost like you create another story to stop the self-love, depending on the kind of individual you are. You see some people who clearly love themselves and they're brash and the hair's perfect and this and that, but that's not what I mean by self-love. That is an egotistical thing. That's a totally different thing altogether.
Well, it goes against love.
It does. It does. It's ultimately trying to find out who you truly are. And the thing is, with this reality we're in, we are so traumatized and deeply programmed, we're kept away from ourselves. So you have to face a lot of things to find self-love, I find. If you go through most of your life, or half of your life like I have, I'm thinking it's half my life, you hit the mid, I'm pushing 50 now. So it's like when I fell ill 2 years ago, I'm like, well, I've done all this. I've done a lot of bad stuff. I've done a lot of really good stuff as well. But I have to face the bad stuff. You've got to face that shadow aspect of yourself as well to find the love inside and recognize the truth of who you are.
Yeah. You do.
And that's hard. That's hard work, and it takes bravery as well. But
it's very hard work. It's hard work, Ant, because you're not brought up in an educational sense in the right environment. That is a programming system, and they never bring that into any of the. It's not in the classroom. It's not in college. It's not anywhere. You may find something in religions and philosophies, but basically, it's not brought in as a guiding principle or any of those principles to literally come down from every single parent and every teacher. You don't get that. What you get is you're taught how to compete. Right. Again, competition. It's not, what is that all about? You make a winner and a loser. What, don't you feel sorry for a loser? No, not if you're the winner. And that's where the ego comes into it. They're creating an egotistical environment so that you can compete, and those that are left behind simply end up either depressed, homeless, or God knows what. Some kids join the forces thinking that they're tough guys and all the rest of it. And the next thing you know, that they're in serious trouble. I mean, all of it is detrimental to any kind of love, really, self or for others in any way, sense, or form, because you're just not there caring enough and benefiting from others' love, and you can't give and receive in the right way because there's not enough there. I mean, in fact, let's make a little corny statement. Really, really bad associations are going to spoil all your useful habits, Yeah. I mean, it sounds judgy, but I'm afraid it's true. If you don't want to hang around with somebody who's violent, why would you want to do that?
It's interesting you mentioned jealousy as well, because with when you are going through that early journey, or like where you think you're falling in love and things like that, and because you've not found that self-love at that period of time, you're not able to give true love, and maybe you don't recognize what love is either properly, apart from maybe from if you're fortunate enough as I am, and you obviously were as well, having a mother that loves you dearly, but not everybody's that lucky, are they? So you can recognize that actual natural quality that comes directly from the heart. There's no thought behind it. It's just pure, and that's when you're talking about somebody you fancy, that might not happen either. You know, you might want it to happen and you might try, but it might not be pure enough. It might not be the real thing.
You know, I love that. That's brilliant again, Ant, because literally when you're a child, if you're having everything you look at is a bit, you've not learned Gnosticism, you've not learned Buddhism, you've not learned this. You might, I mean, you only just bloody get here and they throw you in a classroom and sit you on a chair and ring a bell and you've got to run around to everything they say. You're only just bloody turning up here and you're already getting indoctrinated with God knows what. But the pure part of it is, when I was a child, I was outdoors all the time, lots of little friends, and it was always out in nature. And I was in love with that without even thinking it, because it was a pure thing. There was joy there all the time. The only time that ever got broken was when a big kid came over the hill and smashed you on the nose and stole your sweets. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That kind of thing. Yeah, but most of the time that didn't happen. And I remember looking out at this beautiful vista, saw the canal, seen a few lakes. I loved forests, so I still do to this day. I love forests, walking in them, being in them, spending time in it. And I just thought, this is all mine, but I don't own it. Yeah. I don't anyone freak out. This is not about you will own nothing and be happy. You don't, not really. Neither did they. What they've done is stolen your inalienable rights. You actually are the beneficiary of it. You know, you get into the law stuff that we promote here on Dark Matters, and Carly will put you straight, and many others for that matter. But no, we're talking about love. But yes, that pure feeling of childish innocence before they squeeze it out of you in school and elsewhere. You know,
so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
It's great to look back on that innocence when, you know, if you can put yourself back into that. And again, it's that inner child work, I suppose, as well. You know, because we get deeply programmed and traumatized considerably through, like you say, indoctrination and you know, thrown into adulthood without any clear idea of how to be an adult most of the time, just a worker bee and blah blah blah. You lose. It's almost like grow up and you lose that inner child, that wonderful beauty, the innocence, like you say, the natural joy. And interestingly, when I went to visit my friend in Scotland, that's one of the things we did, was walk around the forest. And you know, when you were a kid and when we had real clouds, you remember the days when we had real clouds and you used to lie in the back garden and you used to just, like, you know, create shapes in your mind from the clouds, and you could see different things. But that was it was an enjoyable, beautiful experience, you know. But we were doing that in Scotland. We were going around the forest and looking at the trees and recognizing shapes and that, and it was bringing the inner child out and the excitement of, like, bloody hell, where's that guy been? Where's that little? Where's he been? You know? And is it wrong to be that way either? Just because you're told to grow up, just because you're told you've got to do this.
Actually, it was more right. No, it's that ruins it. You were already all right. You were enjoying it without the knowledge. And if you don't need it, it was an innate, complete joy of your surroundings, your environment. You're at one with it. You don't think like that. Of course, you think in terms of yourself and your friends and what have you, and you do develop selfishness because it's pushed in on you. And some of it's a bit innate, isn't it? Of course, you know, depends how spoiled you were by parents. Depends on your environment. Depends how you were brought up. All of those factors, you have to factor them in. I mean, I had a best friend whose dad used to beat the living crap out of him, and my mum took him in when he was 16 because he got caught smoking a fag, and his dad put his eye level with his nose here, and I'd seen him beat up his older brother. But I mean, I don't just mean kneeing him, nutting him, all that actual, real physical violence on your own sons. You know what goes on inside somebody's mind to do things like that, I just don't know. But there it is. But it's a level of anger, isn't it? That it's the opposite end. It's the opposite end of the polarity. It's not love at all, and that's what I mean. It takes some love for him, self-love and somebody else who loves him to bring him out of that situation, if he ever stands a chance of doing it, because the ego will play a part. They actually believe in that kind of behavior, some people. They actually think that that is what you do, you know,
because again, that would have been trauma and programming plays a part in all of that from those individuals that do things like that.
Best mate of mine, by the way, that best mate of mine now, just turns out that he's a Jehovah's Witness and he won't speak to me. But we were like brothers.
That's interesting.
It's another story again, on its own, but we were like brothers, we were close.
But here's a question. So this guy who punches his sons, who beats his sons up, say he was born in a completely different area of this realm, this planet, whatever you want to call it. Say he was born in I don't know, in a very desolate kind of area where everything's just calm. It's a completely different world. It's not the Western pressures. You know, he's got a different upbringing. Does he behave in the same way when he has sons or when he has children? Does he behave in the same way? No, he doesn't.
No. I'll tell you why he doesn't. Because if everybody around him saw him as terrible, they'd stop speaking to him. If he was in a really good environment, he was surrounded by people who got along, you know, cooperatively and you know, were good friends and respected one another, he'd be an outcast. People wouldn't speak to you. And rightly so, in a sense, because how else are you going to deal with somebody like that? Because nobody wants to sit around. If everybody's having a good time, someone starts smashing things up and, you know, losing it. I know, man, because I've been there. I've done terrible things myself in the past out of anger. You know, out of things that have happened to me, because I've had a two-sided life, two heads of the coin. My mum was absolutely brilliant. My dad was an all right guy, but he wasn't that cool. He was an angry man. And but I've got to let him off, because his environment, when he was brought up, his father, who I never met, died before I was born, fortunately, because every story I've heard about him I don't particularly like. He used to force my dad when he was 8 years old to go and fight other children, because he was a Protestant and there was Catholics on the other side of the street. To me, it's diabolical behaviour. There's something missing. There's something fundamentally wrong in that.
Well, there is missing, and that again is missing is their own self-love. Because if they have self-love, then they won't behave that way. So my point is, if you're born without that environment, you are going to be more pure, aren't you? Because you're not going to have the toxic environment to change your natural way, which will be love. No. You will be born with love. I have very much doubts that anyone's born without it. You know, it's. I think that really,
let's face it. What do you do really when you love somebody? You make love, and if you want children, you make love, and then that love appears in front of you, a gift. Yeah. A wonderful,
the most amazing manifestation. Yeah.
Absolutely. You help manifest love into another being through the love for each other. That's how it should be looked upon. That's what it should be like. All right, you get all these detractors going. What about rape and what about this? And they want to bring up abortion and all the other things. I don't think we need to get into it. You know the difference. You know what you should think, and you know what you know what's right and you know what's wrong. We've passed through all these things. We're old enough now, mature enough to have left a lot of that behind. It's not like I'm averse to meeting somebody in a sense where I could understand them more now without being judgmental. I can understand that it's a poor soul going through some kind of misadventure based upon the past experiences. It's not really something that. But having said that, you know, being compassionate is twofold. You can feel that compassion, but if you do not put your hand out to save someone, if they're going to drag you down to hell, you know what I'm saying? You've got to let go. So, like I said before, the association will matter to you in the end. It'll matter to your own self-preservation, your own self-love, and how you can develop it for the benefit of other people.
Yeah. Do you think that it's because of the? you know, with your experiences and your wisdom, like looking around and seeing other people grow and build their lives and that, do you think it's difficult to love? I don't know many people who have, say, what me and my missus have. You know, there's something very pure that I'm very lucky in that respect, you know. So
It's not lucky,
I
that.
don't see. No, but no, you're right. It's not luck. But we had that very, very. In fact, we met 10 years ago today, and it was instant. You know,
Yeah.
so, but I know many people and family members, obviously as well, that grow through life with a partner, but what Lou and I have got, that doesn't exist. They'll carry on till
No.
death's door, but they don't have that.
Yeah.
So is it difficult, do you think, for people to have true love?
It's difficult for people to have true love, yeah. And it depends, again, was it difficult for you? Just answer me that. For you and your life, like your partner.
I was searching for love for most from a child for whatever reason. Now I had it might be abandonment issues from, you know, my real father is Sicilian and he buggered off when I was about 4-year-old. Don't remember him, so I probably got some abandonment issues. You know, there's a bit of coming and going. My mum was pure, so I had that love, and I love from her sisters and her brother and things, you know. So I had, but I was always longing for love and longing for a partner, and longing, funnily enough, since I was a child, to be a dad. Now, when I went through various, as you do, stages of relationships when you're trying to find yourself, and you have the jealousy and blah blah, and you're just learning, aren't you? You're just learning as you go along. I got married to my daughter's mother. There wasn't really love there. Now, when my daughter was born, there was instant pure love without a shadow, and that will go on for that's an infinity. You know, that'll never change. But when I met Lou, it was as powerful. It was incredible. You know, that I'd never experienced that before. It was almost like I remember saying. In fact, I said it to her the night we got together. I said, "That's it. I'm knackered now," and there was never intention. We got together, and it was meant to be a bit of a fling, really, a bit of fun. And it was like we both fell in love straight away. We're like, "Oh well, we're buggered then, aren't we?" That's it. It was done. You know?
Well, that's lovely. I don't know, but your original question, is it difficult? Yeah, it is. Simply because it doesn't work like that for everybody. And it's all the things we've just been saying. You know, I mean, some people don't even want it. They just want to be an art case, or they want to be a film star. That kind of self-love, the ego side of it comes into play.
It's the self-love again.
Film stars, pop stars.
Yeah, but there's fear. There's fear where love is concerned, because if you've had love, or what you presumed was love, or you know, and you lost it, it could be in any shape or form. If you lose it, and it's painful, isn't it? But
heartbreak is one of
heartbreak. It's painful. Yeah.
Because if you were in love and you had your heart broken, like, and I have, because well, I'll give you 2 examples. The first time I got married, I didn't really want to get married. What happened was, I was only 22, and the girl I was with, let's have a baby. I said, I don't want a baby. I'm in a rock band. I'm having a great time. I'm really enjoying myself. You know, let's have a baby. No, don't look. And then in the end, I kind of said, look, I'm not having a kid. That's it. Stop it. Right? Yeah. Put my foot down, so to speak. I don't want a kid. Stop taking the pill. Got pregnant. And then a family were banging on my door, and I got a gunshot wedding because I was a kid. And I got married to this person. And I wasn't in love. So it didn't work out. And it only lasted a year. And then I've got a child to pick up every weekend, which caused me, instead of having a great time with my child, I was picking it up. Now, funnily enough, I'd been in love with this girl before that, and I re-met her and ended up living with her. and I ended up marrying her. And I was really deeply in love with her, and I had a son, and it was all going swimmingly until she had an affair, and I didn't see that one coming, and the heartbreak off for that was just phenomenal. And I've gone from one thing from another, like, well, I'm in my third marriage now, and I've never been out with anybody or been with somebody as long as this one, so this is a cracker, really. And we've got all the same outlook, believe all the same things, properly in love, feel safe at long last, you know. Only to a degree, because, you know, I'm a pain in the ass, you know, I might irritate her now and again. But, you know, that's the way it goes. But she loves me dearly and I love her dearly. So it works out in the end. But having gone through all of that suffering, and it still did not put me off wanting to know what love was and going further and further, because during the course of all those things, I'd started my spiritual quest and journey in anyway. Much to the amusement of all my friends, because they all thought I was a nut. Because I'm going back to the age of 24 now, and I started from there, and I'm 66 in July, so it's a long time. No, it's all worked out. So at the end, I was laying in bed thinking, I'm not going to chase it. I don't want to. If I deserve any love, it'll come here. A week later, bang, that was it. Never looked back. So
interesting you say that. So, as I mentioned, I chased it for majority of my life. When I broke my daughter's mum, I went out without about nearly a year. But I knew it weren't right. It was almost, I needed to fill gaps, and I was depressed, you know. When it ended, I decided that is it. I basically started put a deposit down to rent a house for just me and my daughter, and that was the thing. I made this situation, made it very clear. It's just me and my daughter now. Had enough. Not bothering anymore. Don't need it. Happy with myself. Happy with my daughter. 10 years ago today, Lou comes into my life because I've let it go. I've let it go. So ready for it then.
There you go. If you don't, that's very important. That's a really important thing. You know, that's what I was saying about certain kinds of love, especially the one that we're talking about in what they do in Buddhism, because in that there is a love, isn't there? I read it out before. Yeah, that Upeka, where it's being in love, having the ability to love without forming too deep an attachment or having a bias towards yourself or something, or any kind of ideas towards that. So basically, once your heart's been broken and that's finished anyway, what's the point in hanging on to anything like that? That attachment is finished anyway, no matter how you view it as an attachment. And you need to recover and come back, group together, get yourself right. And the only way you can start healing inside is that self-love. We started this. That's what this podcast is about, actually. It's about that self-love. So that's it. You have to come back to the self in that sense. People keep making a mistake. They keep thinking when you say the self that you're talking about yourself in some kind of selfish way. You're not really, unless you're an I want this and I want that. We're not doing that. We're talking about it for the benefit of love itself as a principle. So if you've got love in your heart, then you deserve some love in your life. You deserve it, and it comes. It will do. I'm absolutely positive. I've seen that happen so many times.
I don't doubt it. If we are electromagnetic beings, we manifest in that respect, don't we? So if you're resonating with love for self, then you are guaranteed love is going to come. Guaranteed. If you're full of bitterness and hate and everything, you're pretty much guaranteed you're going to get that. You know, it's finding that truth, that love inside is what will change. If you've not got it, that will change your life. If you can work on that and you can find it, and I wish everyone could.
Well, I had another relationship before I met Caroline over in Ireland, which was short-lived, and that turned out to be nasty. I won't go into the details, but I plummeted again there. And I just drowned instead of doing the right thing. And I'd been spiritual by that point. I'd done many spiritual things, but instead, I was lost in another country, just me and my daughter left. I get a house for me and my daughter. My son was living with his mother in England, and I was flying him over like 5 times a year. He's only a little lad as well, but I drowned it in drink and drugs and had a party, and it was a form of bitterness where I thought, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore, bollocks, all it gets misery and pain. No, we're not even looking at the reflection that I could be causing some of it. But in this case, it was very sinister what was happening to me again. And without being a victim or any of that, I just wasn't compatible. I went against my own judgment, my own instincts, and my own intuition. I knew it was wrong, and I still went for it because I fancied the person that much. That's all it was. It wasn't proper love. So I didn't do the right thing in the first place. I didn't do the right thing in the first place. But boy, did I suffer because of that. And then it took me a number of years to get over that one. So there's been this along the path going okay, and then bang, bump, and then getting up, getting there, and then bang, bump. And I wondered now at this stage, the only real suffering I could have now is if I lost, say, Caroline, which is not going to happen. It would be the big sorrow, like when my mum died. I mean, like anyone very close to you dies. Because the world has suffering in it. There's no point in trying to pretend it doesn't. And there are all lessons to learn. But the universal law, the only thing that overcomes that, as far as I can see, is that kind of energy, is development of loving principles, loving kindness, being generous to people, giving of your time, giving a bit of an ear, and helping them like you do it as a job. You're an empath. You look after people who need your help, which is a wonderful thing to do. So I've been through the gamut, and actually, it's enough to say it. Going through that, it simply means that I've had all the experiences that I can. It doesn't make me judgmental because I know what people are falling into, and I know what messes they can get into. So I can't say that the terrible people, this planet has got some really strange shit happening on it, and it isn't perfect in the sense that we do all love each other. It is governed by dark forces that do not want you going to source or developing these kinds of qualities. That it doesn't suit them for you to do that or have that in your heart or have that ability to do it. They want that crushed, and we know where that's heading. It's another conversation, the transhumanism and all the rest of it. We're aware of it. We're aware of it. And why are we aware of it? Because it's diabolical. Because it goes against all these principles.
It does indeed. It does indeed. The ultimate side of that is recognizing the pushing you further away from source, which is, the divine, isn't it? That's what we're looking at now. Obviously, we could go this conversation could go in so many tangents, but you could go down the you're talking Old Testament before. I don't like that God. Well, there's a reason for that, why there's suffering in this world. I'm pretty sure of it.
It's a big part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But saying that above Yaldabaoth, there is the divine, which is pure love. So how do we bypass that and connect to source, the true source, the true divine? And you got to get out into nature because, ultimately the planet, whatever this realm is, has many wonderful, beautiful aspects to it that we are distracted from constantly by being kept busy by the concrete buildings that they throw up, whatever they do, the material, the fake material, not the beautiful material of what nature is. And if you can get out in that more and try and find some air that's clean and breathe it and whatever, then you're going to start feeling love, because that is love.
Well, that's what I was saying. When I was only 7 years old, everything is mine, but nothing do I own. It's not a selfish thing. I was just in joy of being in it. It was, that is me. Whatever I look at and my mind then interprets and I find joy in it, that was my mind at the time. That was my heart condition. I loved nature. I love nature now. I do. I love it. And it's the big teacher as well. There's so many. Look, people go, why he's got nasty things in nature? Well, it just has, because they're in a lower sense of density, some of those creatures, but they suffer. It's only us that have the concepts and the ability to be able to conceptualize something like compassion and put it into practice.
Yeah.
That you can see animals that have affection for one another, and you can call that love.
100%.
Because I've seen that as well, and
100%.
even altruism in a lot of cases. Some of these bigger creatures like elephants do.
I was just going to say, elephants are the obvious one, aren't they? You watch an elephant being born, and you watch the herd come round and support that elephant to get up on its feet. They're incredible. And that's pure.
So there's lessons in it, but the lessons that are the ones that we should be rising to and elevating ourselves in are the spiritual ones. And what I'm saying by that is the use of the mind in combination with the heart, simply because a lion is a magnificent beast, but it suffers greatly. It has to kill, and it has to fight over its food, and it has to chase it down. Then it gets old, and another lion that's younger and strong comes along and knocks it to bits, and it dies in pain with some of its limbs, and it starves to death. It's not a great life, and a lot of animals, they suffer all the elements, no matter what they are that they're in. I mean, they're clothed in enough, and they adapt to their environment well, or it wouldn't be here. If it didn't adapt, it wouldn't exist. Because that's the thing about it. But the nasty things that you see, the things that you see that are nasty in the animal kingdom, and even in the insect world for that matter, you know not what to do. You know not to do that. Oh, that's not something I do. You can rise above those things. You aren't that. It's there for you to learn from. If you don't learn from it, it's just passing you by, and whatever, you get stung by a wasp, you just hate wasps. You know what I mean? It's the way it is. I mean, there's a lot of people that, it is. It's just like it. But from our perspective, the spirit should be higher than the flesh. I mean, the spirit is always willing and the flesh is weak. You've heard that. It's a kind of a biblical statement. I know what that means. People have good ideas and then they can't fulfill them because they just, you've got the intention, but they don't have the energy to fulfill the idea. And that, I'm afraid, is simply what you have to do with love as well. You have to practice how to control your mind and these temperaments such as anger and frustration, jealousy, because it'll poison you in the end. And the only route out of that, the only path away from any of that suffering is through loving kindness and compassion. There is no other route. You cannot heal anything with all the bitterness and the anger and the rage and the jealousy. That's the sickness. All the three poisons on this planet are ignorance, which is delusion, and old age, sickness, death. And so it's ignorance, hatred, and greed. Ignorance, hatred, and greed. And in that hatred, under that, that has its little demons in it, like jealousy and anger and all the rest of it. Frustrations and envy and avarice and all of this. It doesn't work. We've seen it. We're seeing that now. Now the lessons at the time that we're living in, we're actually behaving. A lot of human beings have done in the past, right up to this present day, behaving worse than animals, because you should be rising above animal behavior. And instead, there's millions of Nazis walking down the street, giving the sovereignty away to a fool in a silly little mustache, giving it all this, and all them people die. And not only that, there's empire upon empire, nation upon nation, rising up and falling down, all the blood, the trail of blood everywhere. There's no love in any of that. The love that they claimed it had is the love for conquest, right? And that's not love. It's just nasty. These are the things we have to realize, and this is what we have to do. And then it comes down to, with the self-love, it just becomes a smaller part. It becomes to do with you and your general relationships, which is why I read some of those words out before, like upecha and mudita, and the storge and that, because of the familiarity that you have with your family and your friends, and how you should treat each other, connectedness, and you meet a soul brother and a soul sister, and you become friends for life. You go through lots of experiences, and there's love there, and it's grown. Once you have experiences like that and relationships like that, it's undeniable to you because it's there. You'll feel it and you'll know it. It's both.
And like you say, the thing there is the feeling, because we are blessed with a body that will give us the messages. Even though we have to try and balance the mind with the heart, the mind is always full of tricks because it could be for trauma and this and that and the other. But ultimately, you feel love. You feel, you know it. It's a knowing. It's there. If you feel it and you know it's there, there's no doubt in it. Your mind might play tricks on you, but there's no doubt in love. You could hold your partner in a loving embrace and feel that power in your heart, can't you? When you're embracing, it's a beautiful feeling. I could feel that by just standing on the beach, looking out to the ocean and breathing in the air. I could still have that same loving feeling. It's there because that's who we really are. Now, the ones that we can recognize that. It's not difficult to recognize. That's the thing. Our body will tell you. It will tell you. If something's off, you'll feel it in the pit of your stomach. You'll know it's not love. You'll know it's wrong. So I don't understand, actually, how people, like you say, go marching with some crazy fascist dude to slaughter many others. Because surely, if they had any self-love at all, they would recognize the fact they were doing wrong.
Well, this is it. What happens is they give the sovereignty away, which is another conversation, and it does come into it, believe it or not. But it's idealism and opinions and views that are swaying you, but the idealism, following an ideal that's not spiritual, that's based on matters in this world, is not working the workings within. It's all outward. You want to change the world. It's got to be changed. We've got this is what we have to do. Attack them, take control of that, and then we'll have it. And we're the fatherland. Nation after nation, empire upon empire, all fading away into the dust. Waste of time, all that suffering for nothing. Shouldn't come from human beings. And I heard somebody put on Facebook, this week, it was earlier this week, I don't trust people who believe or promote unconditional love because it negates all the people who are having a bad time or whatever. No, it doesn't. That's a view and an opinion without fully comprehending what you're talking about, I'm afraid. And I will say that it's arguing. It's actually making a case without the full. You've just described it in the last few words that you were saying when you stood on a beach and all the rest of it. And I'm just like, if somebody's going to come along and be an opponent to unconditional love, they've got an idealism. Yeah. Because it's not idealistic. This is a universal law, and it's also a part of nature. It's natural law. So what is the point in fighting against that? You're changing the sovereignty of the universe into your own. It's egotistical. You want knowledge. You want to know. You've got all these ideas. Therefore, it seems to be important to push them onto somebody else. I've been in groups where they do that, and I've left sharpish. I mean, I'm not saying they weren't nice people, but they were. But if you're not in the group, you're an outsider kind of. I can't be doing with that. No. It's exclusive, and that's not how I look at things. I just think we're all here together, and it should all be sorted out. But it's not. It's not for me to change this world. It's for me to change within, and wherever I go, it's for me to help in whatever way I can. Simple as that. It has to
start that way, Johnny. It has to start that way.
It does.
Like you said right at the beginning, you can't change anybody else without first changing yourself and having that self-love. It has to come from the beginning. That is the start.
You can't change anyone anyway, Ant. All you can do is people do it when they feel the need or they understand it. When they
you shouldn't need it. you should never want to change anyone anyway, because it's up to them. Everyone's unique and in their own journey, but you know,
Right.
it's like there is this two-way thing, isn't it? It's choosing love or choosing to have power over somebody else.
Yeah, brilliant put. That's the thing.
You know, and surely it feels pretty shitty inside if you're forcing power upon somebody else. Now that must feel pretty shit.
Not so powerful. The powerful become, I don't know, it's like a drug. Having power over other people and authority is theft of sovereignty. It's theft of universal sovereignty, and it's that's what's happened to all of us from the day we were born. We were sold out. All your rights were nicked, and you kept from you. Look at all of the people who've tried to put this thing straight now. There's like the likes of Pete Wilson, Pete Stone, Carly Spell, all these others. There's many of them having a go and showing you what they've done with the law and how they've done that, how they've fraudulently deceived every single one of us. How we've not, through our ignorance, handed it up your kid's birthright over as soon as your child's born. It's terrible. But now that we're aware of it and people are growing aware of it, that's good. But there's no need to start getting the wrong impression about yourself and about this is what unity's for now. Let us who do believe this, that love is right, that know love is right, unite with it, come together with it. There is no other way.
I think you're right.
There's a lot of us compared to
unity is absolute truth. I would imagine if you can get unity, but that's a challenge. That is a challenge, and I've recognised that a lot over the past few years. Where during the mad season, there was unity because there was a common purpose. But when that common purpose faded away, there was infighting, and people stopped enjoying each other's company and started attacking each other. So the unity left. But I think that's the challenge of the realm we're in as well. We are in a very challenging game, I like to think. And again, you have a choice. You have a choice of love or fear. And there's a lot of fear because it's thrown at you in every direction. And love, you have to kind of go within again and allow it.
Yeah, you know what, Anne? You said it again earlier on. You know that choice. You're talking about choice. People think they've got choices and they're making choices in this world, but they're not really. They've completely been influenced and drawn out by their desires that have been put there in front of them on purpose. They want. This is why people are staring at the phones and pouting. This is why people are obsessed with this thing or that thing, and they want to be this and they want to be that. And none of it. It's all what you call the worldly kind of love, really. And it's love of things. It's love of objects. It's not really love. That's the illusion. And actually it is deluded. It's ignorant because it won't bring you any joy. I know that because I've again, experienced it. I'm a musician. I love playing music. And what have you, but you know, if I broke my guitar, it'd make me cry. And it was like and that's silly. And I know that's an attachment. I'm aware of it. So what I've done is I've sort of switched it around in my mind, and I've said, I'm not attached to it. I'm a custodian, just so that I don't try and delude myself. But I still am doing. Really, at the end of the day, these are just inanimate objects. They're good things to have, but they're not. These are not important.
No,
in that sense, that all
they're not
is
important.
enjoyment, creativity, as something to pass the time with.
Well, we're not taking any of this stuff with us. It's temporary. It's temporary. It's going to stay behind, and when our story ends, all of that's gone as well. It's just gone.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you know, it's not just inanimate objects. It's an attack on the subconscious mind anyway, as we know. It's all programming. So we've been programmed heavily from birth. We know that. In the past sort of 20 years, we've been heavily programmed in terms of like being developed into the social media front. So yesterday, as you probably saw, Facebook had an outage. Facebook
Didn't see it, no.
No, that's it. Well, Facebook went down, and so did Instagram. So Meta went down, and no, I found it very funny. I must, even though I do use it a lot, and I use it more than I should. I actually, me and my missus got together on a message, and we were like, "How amazing is this? It's hilarious, isn't it? You know, that Facebook's dropped." But people were probably losing their minds at that point.
Lost their minds on.
You know.
Do you know what? I go on it every day. I pick it up, but I go off and I do a load of work, and it's like come back 4 hours, and the same people are still on it making posts. And I think, Jesus, did they go to work? Did they actually do anything? How can you be on it all the time? I don't understand how they find the time to do it. Did they have a job? I mean, what are they doing? But anyway, you know, there you go. It is strange, social media. On one hand, I've found some really good connections, and on the other, found some pains in the ass as well. And I've also found it very addictive. A lot of people, I can't get young kids, just grandkids. I don't see them now. There's another story. But faces in it all the time. Like I grew up, there was nothing there when I grew up. Nothing like, no cameras everywhere, nothing.
No, me neither. But you're looking at this. This again is going down the route of transhumanism talk, where they cut you off from source. You're being distracted into the material. It's just taking you into inanimate material world that is nothing to do with the divine. Nothing. It's just part of the mind.
An illusion. If this world's an illusion, Anne, what on earth do you want to go into a dream within a dream for? I mean, it's already illusory enough, and you've got physicists trying to work it out, and God knows how many people have philosophized over it for how many centuries and millennia. And now all of a sudden, some because this tech's gone where it's gone, it's going to suck you further out of the way, further into the wrong direction, because that's not going within. That's somebody else's idea, somebody else's creative process being put onto you, and you've willingly gone into it. All right, it's good fun for a bit when you're a kid and it's a game and it looks real, but you've got to take them off and get back out of here. You know, and when you say you have choices, we do have choice.
We do,
but only when we're aware of making them wisely.
Yes. And that's where there's a kind of blur of free will, because we've only got so much free will because we've actually been so heavily programmed. Because when you try and break your programming, it can make you poorly, because you're so heavy. You know, it can stress you out. It can make you depressed. It can be a tough place to go to break your own programming. It's tough.
Yeah, absolutely, Ant, because you are dependent on it. You're dependent on. If you fall into a state and you're dependent on the state for anything. And you're dependent on gas boards and electricity boards. You need a car to get around. You've got to get on public transport. But then you become dependent on, there's all the other things. People are addicted to TV, shopping. They're addicted to alcohol and drugs. All kinds of things that you become dependent on, making your life much more difficult and giving yourself less of an opportunity to make a really informed free will decision. Yes. Because of the dependencies that you're on and that you're suffering from. And again, I've done it myself. I've done that as well. I've been a hedonistic person. I would have been. I was in rock and roll bands, you know, and I loved it at the time because I was stupid and ignorant enough to think it was great. But I soon did. When I jacked that in.
But you develop wisdom from that. That's just part of a journey as well. And when I went through my work of my own, like facing my own shadow, I've had lifestyles that would make your toes curled. You know what I mean? But it's, and I'm not proud of it, but I enjoyed it. And is there anything wrong with me for not saying that either? Well, no, because it was part of my experience, you know, and I've learned from it. I've learned from it. I wouldn't behave that way anymore. But I don't regret it either.
No, don't. There's no point in doing that one either.
No.
If you've got a regret, usually the regret for me is something I didn't do.
Yeah.
I'm going to regret it if I don't, try and transmute myself into a better human being and a better spiritual body. When I say spiritual body, I mean wherever that leads, because I don't tend to want to think of it in terms of a belief like a god or a deity in that. Well, I believe that the source, as people call a creator, I have a love and an awe and a respect for that. I wouldn't be here without that higher self, that higher thing. None of it would. It's the suffering that I have trouble with, but there must be a reason for it. And I think it's to do with these differences, especially in this realm where these archons, if you want to call them, this demiurge, these dark forces, these dark entities, it's power and rulership and authority over sovereignty. That's what the whole issue is about here. Some of these dark things have usurped the true sovereign of this universe, the source, in this realm at least.
I love this because we're going straight into Gnosticism now. It's like, what is controlling this? What is controlling this? And
complex Gnosticism. We'll have to go into that at some point. But it is.
It is, because it's like you're saying, it's almost like it's been hijacked. The reality has been hijacked because the reality, the true creator probably would have wanted it to be loving.
Well,
if there is a benevolent God.
To me, it's a waste of time. Of course, that's the truth. It's the unconditional love. You're not here by conditional love. You're placed in conditions by something in the unconditional, where it's undeserved loving kindness. You didn't have to do it. She didn't have to do it. It didn't have to do it. It depends what you want to look at it as. People are giving it all sorts of names. To call it, say, Jehovah or Yahweh is a bit of a joke, really, because it's completely unknowable in that respect. There's, it's something much more mystical, spiritual, but there is a knowledge in it. And I've always said in it, it's a statement I'll always use. And I was talking to Carl the other day, and I want it printed on one of my T-shirts. If you're listening, Carly, I want those who comprehend it not. Those who understand it not. That's what it is. Those who are claiming they know it all and they know it all for a fact are filling you full of crap.
Well, Socrates said it, didn't he? Didn't Socrates say it? We just know nothing. We know nothing.
Actually, you'll find, again, in the Gnosis thing, they took on board a lot of the Stoicism stuff and the Socratic stuff. And so did the Apostle Paul in the New Testament. He even used the same words he uses in one of his speeches.
Right. Interesting.
So, I don't know if anyone knew that all, but it's there. You can find it all out. It's not difficult. This is the thing with knowledge and that. I've read that many books now and gone in that thing that it's got to become real, hasn't it? It's all work within.
I think so. I think there has to be that. It has to start there. It has to. So it was definitely a good conversation to have for the first one of this and I didn't even mean to do that either. It was just when I was listening to you talking, the different names of love, and I was like, well, where's the?
It was meant to happen. That
it's interesting. Yeah.
It's the best. It's the best way to start. When I think about it, it should have been that, and I can't believe I didn't write one of them words down there from off at another place. But you know what? So long as
on the next one, then you'll have to tell me.
Yeah. No. Well, this is it. We'll figure out where to go from here, because we couldn't have started anywhere else, really, could it, Ant? So nice one for that, my brother.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for inviting me on this, Johnny. I'm looking forward to keep doing this with you. It's going to be good.
I love you, brother. And it's
I
been
love
brilliant,
it.
and I'm looking forward to doing the rest of them as well. I really am, because
No, it's going to be
I've
good.
asked for a better guy to do it with, to be honest.